close our eyes and, take a few deep breaths, please. As you exhale, relax your body. When you relax your body, try to visualize all your muscles relaxing. Take one more deep breath. And as you exhale, let go of your thoughts and worries. Now, let's start as usual with our gratitude attitude. Think of one thing which was positive for you in last 1 week, which you are thankful for. Take a moment to think about that. Once you have identified that, think about why that was positive for you. Now, just let it go. Say it out loud or say it to a person next to you. Share it, in other words, to make sure that you are putting it out there in the universe. Okay. So before we begin our today's discussion, I wanted to tell you about a useful daily practice. I briefly mentioned this, I think, in our first or second session. And well, quite frankly, I just forgot towards the end to bring it up in each session since then. So here it goes. Every day, take 10 deep breaths 10 times a day. That's it. No meditation, nothing else. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath. When you take that breath, feel the sensation on your nostrils, cold air going in, slightly warmer air coming out. It's 10 breaths, that's it. If you like, you can put a reminder or an alarm on your phone. And if you do this as a practice, just regardless of what's going on, you may not notice immediately, but long term, it will calm you down. It has a calming effect on people. So, no matter what you're doing, if an alarm rings and you want to, stop everything you're doing, if you're in the middle of a project, stop for 10 breaths. Shouldn't take you more than, I want to say 3 minute stops, depending on how long your breaths are, but it shouldn't take you that long, 15, 20 seconds of breath, right? So try to do that. I've been meaning to say that for the last few weeks, so I thought I'll bring it out. So 10 by 10, 10 by 10. If you don't put this on your phone or any reminder, put a sticky note at a couple of places, right, where you frequent, in your office, maybe in your car, maybe Wherever you frequent during the day, 3 or 4 places, just put a sticky note on each place, and you don't have to put anything else. Just say 10x10, right? And that will remind you, and it will get you going. So uh, try that. I think it will have an very positive impact. So now let's talk about our topic today. I want to talk about me, or I, right? We have this exaggerated self of I, uh, and that that tends to create a lot of problems. So if we look at our delusions in life, right, they say that there are 6 so-called root delusions: anger, attachment, ignorance, pride, so on and so forth. And if you think about your happiness, these delusions are the root cause of our unhappiness in a day-to-day life, right? If you don't get angry, if you're not overly attached, if you don't have wrong type of ignorance, if you don't have jealousy and pride and this and that, there's no reason to be unhappy in life, right? So if we want to be happy, we should try to remove these delusions, right? Someone offends us, someone says something, and we get angry or it upsets us. We have expectations from our family, our kids, our wives, our husbands, our friends, right? Our bosses. That's because we have a attachment towards them. So have you ever thought, say, where does anger come from? Where does jealousy come from? Why do we get angry? Why are we so prideful, right? Root cause of all our delusions is self-cherishing. Self-cherishing is just a fancy name for a mind that thinks I'm important. That's it. you know, and I gotta know. uh, I was, I've been doing yoga practice for better part of 2 3 years, and I really like my yoga teacher. And one day, after the yoga, she says towards the end, she says to everyone, yoga is about loving you, take care of you. And I tell her, Kathy, that's never been problem in my life. I always love myself. So that's self-cherishing, right? That's like uh, there's nothing beyond that. So when we have a conversation with someone, right, and they say something, it hurts our pride. Why does that hurt our pride? That's because we think we are more important than the other person. It's as simple as that. And that logic applies to every delusions we have. Let's say you give some task to somebody on your staff, right? You're in charge of 5 people or 10 people, what have you. And you said, listen, Bob, I need you to take care of this by, June 30th. June 30th comes around and Bob hasn't finished that task, right? You get angry, upset. Sometimes, you are not verbalizing that towards Bob, but internally it's eating you away. That's because you think it makes you look bad. You promised your superior or your client that, hey, this will be done on date certain, and it didn't get done, and now you look bad. So it's about you, right? It's not about Bob. So your anger is out of your self-cherishing, right? Has nothing to do with that project. Project survives. Um, So we should try and contemplate that during our meditation today, that all of our problems arise from self cherishing. And I must eliminate self cherishing. That's the uh, object of our uh, focus towards the end, right? Last 1 minute when we do focus. But before that, let's try to contemplate that. So, in today's meditation, again, as usual, first we will settle down in our heart, focus on our breathing. That will help us settle down. Then we'll try to clear off our mind of any thoughts. If a thought arises, we'll acknowledge it and hopefully it goes away. If you find yourself chasing that thought, go back to sensation of your breath. That will calm us down. And then once we are there for a few breaths, then we'll start contemplating self cherishing, our delusions, and the fact that we must eliminate our self cherishing. So that's the idea today. So let's begin. Um, please sit in a meditation posture. Make sure your spine is upright. Gently close your eyes. Keep your mouth just a little bit open, so any tensions you may have in your jaw disappears. Put your palms in your lap, right over left, thumbs gently touching each other, and take a deep breath. As you inhale, focus on the sensation on your nostrils, that slightly cool air. As you exhale, again focus on the sensation of your breath. Take about 5 or 6 breaths on your own. If you find yourself thinking about something, just acknowledge that thought, just watch that thought, and it should disappear. If you end up chasing your thought, please go back to your breathing, focus on the sensation for about 4 or 5 breaths. If a thought arises, just gently acknowledge it and it should disappear. If you find yourself chasing your thoughts, again, go back to your breathing. Now, let's contemplate, where do our delusions come from? Where does attachment come from? Pride come from? Anger come from? Think about a situation where you had a delusion in the last couple of days, most likely today, and think about that situation. At first, our instinct is to blame someone else. I got upset because they didn't do X, Y, or Z. I work hard, but they get the better end of the stick for whatever reason. But if we look at that thought closely, deep down, it boils down to just one simple thing: my happiness is more important than other person's happiness. I would let you contemplate that on your own for a few minutes. Now that we understand that where these delusions come from, we must make a resolve. I will eliminate self cherishing. Single pointedly focus on that phrase at your heart. If you lose your focus, go back to your contemplation and then bring it back to your single pointedness. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Okay. Any questions? All right.
You, I mean, sometimes you get angry while helping someone too, right? When you're trying to help someone, they don't get it.
Right.
So where does me come into play? I agree
That,
with it. Still, I'm trying to help them, or it's
but
some cherishing.
that's our ego, right? Like, let's say, give you a perfect example. Let's say, you go in a community and you're trying to help a homeless person. Okay, you're trying to give them food, and you give them money for the food, and they go buy alcohol, right? You get angry, like, right? And so, two things: that anger comes from self-cherishing, because again, you're thinking, hey, I gave you money, you're not using it for the right purpose, right? You are defining his right purpose, right? Now, doesn't mean that what he's doing is right, because he has his own delusions, right? But that comes from self-cherishing, because again, we are putting our values on top of theirs. That's where the anger comes from, right? So what they are saying is, and we'll talk about this in the next few weeks, uh, that we must have compassion for that fact. That you want to help that homeless person, great thing, right? You give them money, great thing. If that brings you anger, don't give them money. Next time you bring them food, right? So that they don't go buy liquor with that, right? So you improvise. But the phrase is equanimity, meaning compassion without attachment. We are getting angry at them because we have that attachment. We generate that attachment that, hey, I gave you money, right? So that's where, and that's just one example, right? This could apply to our kids and this and that everywhere. But the reason I brought that homeless example is because that everyone can relate to, right? We all stopped at that uh, s- red light and gave them a $10, and next thing you know, he goes buy a pack of cigarette. I've seen that, right? So, and I used to get angry, and I probably still do. So that's where we need to stop. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this. What we need to develop is known as equanimity, and we'll talk about that in future sessions. It's a little bit advanced topic, but in a simplest term, it means compassion without attachment. The same compassion we have for our kids, we have attachment towards kids, which we shouldn't have, but the same compassion we have, we should try and extend that to all living beings, right? We don't have the same compassion towards something we see on TV,
Right.
right? I mean, it's just, we just look at it matter of factly and move on. If same thing happened to our kid, we will be up and down, right? And that's because of attachment. But, so the idea is to meet somewhere in the middle.
So, otherwise, what if somebody is trying to provoke you and trying to make you upset? So, until you don't get angry, the person will keep poking you, keep saying, what is the solution of that? How do you control over your anger for these kind of things?
So that's a very important thing, because you brought up in, what if someone pokes you or provokes you, right? When they poke you and provoke you, what provokes you? So when they are not around, we need to think about as to what it is what they are saying provokes me and why, right? Maybe it's my attachment towards them. For example, if the same thing which provokes you, if X says, will not probably provoke you if Z said that same thing, right?
True.
So
Mhm.
that again brings to your attachment, because that is, we are attached to X certain way because we have expectations of them, right? So that's where meditation comes in handy. If we train our mind. See, I saw a very interesting uh, graphic today on LinkedIn. It had two uh, pictures of mind, and one was full of, like, cluttered with thousand things, and the word written next to were two words: mind full, mind space full, right? and other one was a mind completely blank with couple of clouds, and it had a one word called mindful with just one L, and one word versus two words, right? And that's the difference. We want to try to get into that state of mind where we control our mind. Last time you asked what's the end goal. So first is to remove that clutter from that mind, and then we lead our mind so that it goes only where we want it to go. That's the most important thing. Like in our meditation, first about 8 or 10 minutes we spend on clearing our mind, but then we contemplate it. That's also known as analytical meditation. And then we single pointedly focused that I will remove my self cherishing. If we focused for that 1 minute or 2 minutes, how long it took us, and no other thought came into our head during that time, perfect, right? We just trained our mind to think only what we want it to think. So going back to your question, if someone provokes you, more meditation we do, hopefully we'll have control over how we react to that. And there are some tricks, and we'll talk about that someday. But uh, you know, one lady said to me, I got pulled over by my a cop, and while she was getting ticket, she just went into this deep breath meditation, and she said it really helped me. So you know uh, uh, again, it's about training our mind so that we don't get provoked, and once they realize that you don't get provoked, they'll stop poking you, right? Because fun goes away from them.
So this is a general question, in
Sure.
everyday life, people practice this a lot.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the key, right? Um, my kid provoked me every day, so there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
So,
Another question is, last time I asked, uh, so the final goal is we want to go blank, which is still not there.
right,
So I have made some progress in past week,
right.
but it's not huge. It's very little. So when I concentrate on my breathing,
Hmm.
inhale, exhale, I feel those, warmth and coldness.
Hmm.
That's all great. Ten times I did that. The 11th time I stopped, and then I again went back into other thoughts. So, how to tell your mind? So, what to think at that point? Blankness, it's not there yet. So, either some picture or something I want to concentrate at that point rather than going blank. Going blank is not there. I mean, it's not happening.
Okay. So you can okay, let's say you envision a picture, right? I don't want you to keep your eyes open though. But if you want to envision a picture of a deity, that's fine. Let's try that and see if that helps.
Okay.
Okay. Again, goal is not to go blank. Goal is to go blank first, and then let the mind go where we want it to go. Right. Goal is to stop these uncontrolled thoughts. That's all. So if you want to envision a picture, close your eyes, and if you want to think about a deity or a flower or lotus, whatever that maybe, that is fine. But don't try to keep your eyes open, because then I'm telling you, it's going to bring its own set of issues in terms of it will start wandering and will take your mind again all over the world.
So, just a general question. You have been doing this for quite some time.
three
I'm still
years
a beginner. So when you are doing it, what do you think? What comes in your mind? I mean, what's in there? Just
So absolutely nothing other than what I'm analyzing or what I'm focusing on, like placement meditation. But I'm right now going through a meditation festival.
Mhm.
Today they had 1 hour session, okay, and I was doing fine until minute 41, and I said I give up. So I said, okay, I can't go beyond minute 41. So I just stopped, because okay, that was my limit. I found my limit, right? So idea is to go there, right, from 40 seconds to 40 minutes, hopefully. And that took me 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. Right. So it's a long long process for sure. So, I mean, there are people who do it for hours. So,
Wow.
yeah, someday we'll all get there. It's, you know, they always say this in self-help business. It's progress, not perfection. So as long as we make progress, 1 second, it's good enough.
I mean, I started 3 weeks back.
Yeah,
I feel a little improvement, but
that's
it's
all.
just a little.
That's
Not
all. 1 second is good enough, right? That's 1 second more than you had 3 weeks ago.
right.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you. And let's stop here. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Bye.